Hi there, folks. It's another one of these vids. You didn't think I was gonna make another one? Well, I made another one. Now, last week, which the day that I'm recording this is February 13th, so just kind of make sense of the fact that there was no video last week, nor a stream. That was because I was at a convention with Jimmy. So Jimmy, if you're watching this, I enjoyed our time at MegaCon. Great time, between the two of us. Unfortunately, MegaCon, as is tradition, well, it's not a tradition yet, but it's only been the second year I've been at it. But I guess as is tradition in the sense of how my body functions, whenever I attend something where there's a large crowd of people, and a crowd at least of I don't know, like maybe 80 to 100,000 people, especially if they're all crammed into a small confined space. Yeah, there is a high likelihood that I end up sick, which that was the case for me throughout this entire week. It is Thursday. It's gonna be Friday tomorrow. Thank God it's Friday. Um, yeah, I'm recording this right now. Just kind of discuss some that came into my head, and I feel like touching on it a little bit, and see what you, the audience, has to say in the comments. So far, we got nothing on the last two, but we will work towards this. We shall try until we built up 100 viewers on one of these videos. So yeah, pardon for the if I have to cough at any moment, I'm probably gonna have to move my face away from this mic quickly, and if I have to I have to like scratch my throat somehow, like that. Yeah, so forgive me for those because I am still a bit sick. I'm recovering. I'm in the late stage of the sickness, so I should be feeling a lot better by Saturday. But for now, I'm kind of sick, so bear with me. But yeah, so what you're seeing is well, I've already streamed this before in the past. Um, oh yeah, right. I didn't stream on Saturday because of MegaCon, which is where I was at with Jimmy, and I didn't upload a video last week just because I was preparing for MegaCon, because it is a preparation. No cosplay though, but it's a preparation. You got to get your mind into it, because you're gonna be out and about walking for what is essentially hours of the day. I mean, I got a lot of steps in. I almost got to 30,000 steps according to what my phone calculated by the end of MegaCon. So I got my steps in. My legs felt like dookie at the end of that, but you're gonna have to bear with it. And unfortunately, getting sick makes the dookiness of the leg pain spread out to the back of my neck and my shoulders. So, glad I'm feeling better. And since I'm feeling better and my voice doesn't sound hoarse, uh, gotta get to that topic that I was gonna touch on a few minutes ago. God, I go on tangents so often. It's like a tradition of mine. If you've been with me for the last couple of years, you know that I am the king. I am the undisputed champion of going off on random tangents as in the middle of my I guess my rants or my random chat sessions. You know, that triggers a core memory for some of you watching this if you've been with this channel for a while. So I guess the topic of discussion would be well, I guess the video footage kind of helps emphasize what's going on with what I'm thinking of. So this is Black Ops 3. I've streamed this before, and if you're wondering why all the anime girls are on the screen, that is the Girls Frontline mod. I think I've done a good bit of advertising for this mod. Great mod. I guess I'll probably link it in the description. Of course, you could easily just browse it on the workshop. It's like, I think, front and center on the workshop for like the most popular mods installed. It makes Black Ops 3 10 times more tolerable, because this is probably one of the worst Call of Duties I've ever played. However, it has the best zombies I've ever experienced. So it's like a double-edged sword. Shit campaign, crap multiplayer, but godly zombies, just god level zombies. And now with the mods and shit, ugh, it's chef's kiss. But yeah, so what I wanted to touch on was about the whole thing of at least as an American, when it comes to gaming and entertainment. I'm going to focus primarily on gaming because last video I focused on entertainment as a whole, and some folks have told me that The title of the video just didn't fully match up with what I was talking about as I was going off on rants about multiple different things and multiple different entertainment types, and I'm just going to keep things strictly gaming related in this sense. I guess this could also be applied to film and TV. I don't know about music, but gaming specifically is where I'm going to go off, and rant. And this is about the idea of whether or not violence or sex is the best thing for gaming. What I mean in regards to this is, as an American, the gaming industry here, from what I've noted over the years of being into gaming for as long as I can remember since I was little, has always been like a very heavily like violence dominated thing. Like, I guess that's in part to the fact that the ESRB, our rating system, tends to go hard on anything that's sexual content, but on violence, it's just like, nah, chief, you're good. Decapitation. I'm not seeing the M rating there. I'm gonna have to give it a T rating. It's not, the decapitation is there, but the blood, it's not there. It's just a mild decapitation. Something like that. I might be wrong on that, but there may have been some sort of game released at some point where somebody got decapitated, but it didn't look too gruesome, so we can give it a T rating. Meanwhile, you show some titty on screen, game's instantly gonna get an M rating. No questions asked. There can be absolutely no violence in the game, just some titty for a brief second, but that's already enough to give the game an M rating, which is something I've always laughed my ass off at when it came to American gaming. Just because, and obviously not everybody who's in America is gonna be like, yeah, dude, like violence, like decapitations and impalements and blood everywhere and guts on screen. Nah, bro, like that's tame. But show some cleavage, oh hell no. Show some ass, hell no. That's where I draw the line. I know. Obviously, not every gamer in America is gonna be of the mindset of, we can't have this. This is unspeakable. It's like, no, that's just not the thing. In the same mindset of like how not everybody in Europe is gonna be of the mindset of like, oh shit, there's too much violence on screen, I can't handle this. Meanwhile, everything on screen has to have titties and ass everywhere, and it's got to be a ding dong flapping about, and that's perfectly fine. It's like, no, obviously, like that's not how we are. Obviously, we all have different interests that we're into and different things that we enjoy in our entertainment. But I'm just pointing out how kind of ironic it is, because I've been noting that, especially if you go on social media, you'll notice that some people get really pissy, specifically about sexual content. They always get kind of annoyed that it's like, why on earth is this game emphasizing, especially in particular towards female characters? I feel like the male characters don't get shat on that much whenever there's any sort of fan service going on with male characters, which is kind of, retarded in that sense. Because I'm like, look, if we're gonna lewd the male characters, we might as well do it for the female characters. Literally, it's been tradition since as long as gaming has been around. Some people will say, oh no, it's because like gaming's, like the people into it have become more diverse over the years, and this is what people are into these days. By the way, apologies if you hear like a rattling sound. That's me trying to, make my grip on the mic a little bit more comfortable. Because if I hold on to this Rock Band mic for too long in one arm, my arm goes numb. Because obviously my limbs fall asleep if they're stuck in the same position for too long, so I gotta move myself about. But anyways, yeah, so people online have been like, oh, like, why on earth are we fan servicing the female characters like too much? This is blatant sexism. This is disrespect towards women. This is misogyny, which literally misogyny is violence towards women, not sexism. Sexism is discrimination based on sex, or gender in this case. I don't know where people draw these conclusions at, but as far as I'm aware of, since I was little, because I remember seeing things like PlayStation Magazine and things like E3 when I was younger, and I recall that fan service wasn't really something that people, batted an eye towards. It's like, you saw a fan service in a game, you just kind of, rolled with it. It's like, hey, it's there. I mean, cool. I know that, like I said, the U.S. gaming industry is pretty, violence dominated, and it is understandable that if your game has sex and violence, it is going to attract attention, because if you have a game that doesn't include either of those two things, it's going to be boring unless you get creative. If you have something like, I don't know, Bejeweled, obviously there's no violence, there's no sex in Bejeweled. If you want Bejeweled with sex, there is Honey Pop. But if you want, hardcore match 3 in its original form, obviously Bejeweled is the way to go. But a game like that is something that's like, you're interested in the game for the game itself, but you don't need the violence or the sex to make the game sell. But some games, it's based on the artist's, image of what it is that they want to put on screen. Like if I was an artist and I'm thinking of a game I want to make a game that I don't know has some violence, has some titty. It's gonna make people interested in the game. Obviously, you don't need those things for a game to be successful. In fact, I've seen cases of games that have both of those things and they end up being massive failures. Especially back in the day. Back in the day, I feel like nowadays, like people, as soon as a game like I don't know, like Stellar Blade, for example. I've never played it because it's not on PC. Well, not yet, but it will be on PC soon. So that's good to know. But I feel like people were hyping up on, especially on Twitter. Now I know it is Twitter, and I know people on Twitter are clearly lacking some brain cells on there. But hear me out for a minute. People on there were saying that, oh, I'm glad that the character lets me have mildly, suggestive or mildly lewd outfits for the protagonist character. And they were making a big deal about it. It's like, look, I enjoy fan service as much as the next person. I mean, for fuck's sake, I have a goddamn anime girl mod installed on Black Ops 3. Now, primarily, like I said, this was to make Black Ops 3 more tolerable to play, because I genuinely think this is one of the worst, if not the worst, Call of Duties I think I've ever experienced. And I have not played Modern Warfare 3 2023. And I have seen footage of that game, and at least the multiplayer was the saving grace of that one, from what I recall. Some people would be like, oh, you don't have the modern Call of Duty, so how can you talk about it? Well, I've seen gameplay footage. It's 2025, folks. You can see footage of something and decide for yourself if this is worth it for you. This is also why I didn't buy Black Ops 6, because of AI-generated garbage in the game. But anyways, people were getting all uppity about how, oh, how on earth are you gonna put skimpy outfits for the female protagonist of the game? And then other people were like, oh, hell yeah, we're returning to gaming's roots. Now, I feel like people have just been making too much of a fuss over this, because with the whole thing about wokeness and the whole thing about DEI and gaming and all that, obviously people are on both sides are going to be like, oh, like the other side is doing their thing and it's pissing me off and I don't like it, and I have to find some sort of way to virtue signal that I am pleased with the direction that said new game or said new thing of content has taken, and I need to show the world that I'm absolutely proud of the game doing this thing. And honestly, on both sides, they take it to an extreme where I'm like, look, if the game is good, the game is going to be good. I've played games that are considered woke trash that I genuinely thought were good. Like, Spider-Man PS4 is considered woke trash by some people, and I genuinely found that to be a very good game. Meanwhile, I played a game like Senran Kagura, and I know some people have said that game is absolute fan-servicey, perverted trash, and I'm like, it's not. I mean, both games are good in their own in their own respects. And when I say Senran Kagura, I've played through basically the main 3 games and Peach Beach Splash. So, specifically the story. And I can tell you, some people would look at you and be like, how'd you play those games? You clearly played them because you're a perv. Excuse me. I can tell you the entirety of the lore of these games. I'm not going to do it right now on video because, that's gonna eat up in the conversation and again send this off on another tangent that I don't want to go off on. But no, from my personal mindset, I think people just take the whole concept of woke versus not woke to an extreme these days. And I know some people have been ultra giddy on the internet about how, oh, I'm glad that Donald Trump got reelected because we can now bring an end to the wokeness and the DEI mindset in gaming. Look, like, I'm almost certain the industry, just all industries in general, are gonna get away from that just because of the current administration in the White House. And I have my personal opinions on the current president. They're not the most positive. I mean, and for all of you who are about to turn away from this video because I said I don't like Donald Trump, I didn't like Biden either, so calm your tits. I hate both of them very equally. There's things that I hate more about the other, and there's things that I like more about the other. I'm a guy who's living in the middle of the U.S., so I got my opinions on both of them. Some are more positive than the other. But people were saying, oh, like with Trump being president, where things are gonna improve in the industry, we can finally get. I feel like most of them are saying that because they just want to have more titty in games. And look, I enjoy fan service. I also enjoy gratuitous amounts of violence in a game. I play Doom. I absolutely fucking love Doom. Well, Doom and Doom 2 and Doom 3 and Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal. I loved all of them equally. There's no sexual content in those games. It's straight up violence. In the same case, I'm not a big fan of Manhunt. I, I, I know some people regard Manhunt as an extremely amazing game. I tried playing it a bit. It's just not my thing. And some people would say, oh, you just can't handle the gratuitous amount of violence. Motherfuckers, I've watched Saw films. And now I know for a fact that those films are filled with gratuitous amounts of violence, but there's a thing about them. I was entertained by those films. In the case of something like Manhunt, it just doesn't catch my attention. I think it's because of the slow gameplay loop of something like Manhunt. Hold on, my screen's trying to fade away. Ah, damn it, I hate when it does. I don't know why the fuck my PC screen has to fade away while I'm in the middle of recording something. But yeah, no, like, I like both things equally. I just think that people blow out of proportion the whole concept of, oh, the game needs to have more violence or the game needs to have more sexual content. And I feel that our rating systems in different parts of the world just treated in such a specific way where I'm like, is this okay for the younger audiences to experience? And I know this is one of those things where most people, it's like, it's a touchy subject because, the people playing games, especially when you're a teenager, you don't know what exactly a teenager should be able to experience in a game. And this is coming from a guy who, when I was a teenager, I was playing mostly, violence in games because that's pretty much what was dominating the American gaming industry back in my teenage years. Things like Call of Duty, Battlefield, Halo. I was at the Xbox 360, PS3 era of gaming, the good old seventh gen of gaming. In my opinion, the best generation. Some people will disagree with me on that, but I'm speaking from personal experience. Seventh gen was the best because the games we were coming out with in those days were games that came from people's hearts, people's dreams of what they wanted their game to be. The game didn't have to have a gratuitous amount of violence or a gratuitous amount of sex to please a specific audience, so people won't shit on the game because it's too woke or it's too offensive. They were just like, I make game, I have idea for game, I make game, here is game. If my game sucks, well, it sucked. I'll try better the next time. And if it didn't suck, sweet. It's gonna be fucking payday for me for the next God knows how long. If your game is Skyrim, it'll be payday for you for the next decade in this sense, since Skyrim has been remade so many goddamn times. But honestly, I gotta say, I'm genuinely not, like, from what I'm seeing today. I feel like the way that, and I guess this is something that stretches as far back as the founding of something like the ESRB and most of these rating systems. I feel like the way violence gets treated with more of a I feel like violence in US in American gaming gets treated a lot less, under a lot less scrutiny than something like sexual content. I mean, I know it's kind of changed over the years as there's more of a tolerance that's been built up as generations of Americans come and go, especially with someone like my generation, which I guess in my case I'm labeled as Gen Z, but at the same time some people are like, oh, but you're on the older end of Gen Z, so you're kind of like on the edge of millennial. So I guess I have like a thing of both generations in my case. But from my personal perspective, starting from like Gen Z, and I guess to a certain extent millennials onward, but especially with Gen Z, you're getting more into generations that are just like, look, I've grown up with some very violent games that have been really good, and some really violent games that have been really ass cheeks, and at the same time, I've experienced games that are, very sexual in their content that have been really good, and then games that have been really sexual in their content that are just absolute ass to play, and no pun intended there, but honestly, I'm glad that there's some sort of more of a tolerance to it to some extent. While at the same time, there is groups of people that go, "Oh, we can't be more tolerant of more sexual content in the game." But then there's people who kind of warp it, and then they're like, "Oh, but we can only do sexual content if it fits something like, I don't know, like a male character or a character who's trans or something. That's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine. But God forbid you wanna have like a fan service moment for a female character. That's drawing the line, and I get that sentiment because it is kind of stupid that some people take that path and they're like, look, just let the game be the game. But in terms of how we view things here in the U.S., I'm like, I think we got to take more of a. I think we got to rework the way the ESRB goes in terms of how we rate things. Because I genuinely think that a game shouldn't be absolutely deflected because, oh, the game has too much sexual content or the game has too much violence. At the same time, we can't go too soft, but we can't go too hard on it, if you know what I mean. I think I remember seeing that the best rating system, and it's flawed too, but the best way to do a rating system would be the way the Japanese do it. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's like, oh, well, weeb, he's saying that the Japanese do it best. Now, hear me out for a sec. The Zero or Sero system that they use in Japan has A through D and Z for the highest rating. A game like Fallout New Vegas gets a Z rating because violence and a lot of gore and all that, and there is sexual content in the game, mild. It's mostly violence that dominates a game like New Vegas. While at the same time, a game like Senran Kagura gets a D in Japan because it's permitted for someone who's like under the age of 18, between the ages of 15 to 18, because there's no gratuitous violence in the game. There's violence, but it's more like cartoony anime styled violence, but no real blood on the screen. Meanwhile, if there's like blood and guts everywhere, it's like, yeah, that's a Z rated game. Meanwhile, here in America, we give an M rating to that same game of Senran Kagura, which is also a game getting the same rating as a game like Manhunt. Like I said, anyone who's ever played Manhunt, I don't know how on earth a game about anime girls flashing, well, not really flashing, but with the boobs out at times and skimpy outfits and all that. I don't know how on earth this is. What I'm saying is, if you're trying to debate what game to let a 16-year-old play, I don't know how exactly you can explain to a 16-year-old what's going on in Manhunt, as opposed to a game like Senran Kagura. I know the Japanese have a different tolerance for certain things, but I know in Europe it's also the same case where it's like in Europe sexual content is much more tolerated than violent content, and I know that obviously it's a culture difference between the East and the West and Europe, but well, I guess Europe counts as the West up until you get to like Eastern Europe. I never understood that division either. It's like, where's the East start and where's the West start? But that's beside the point. What I'm just saying is, what exactly do we find as like as like tolerable levels of each of these? In my opinion, I think at least here in America, we should really rework something like the ESRB just to have like a rating between T and M where it's like, okay, like this is a game meant for older teenagers, this is a game meant for younger teenagers, and this is a game meant clearly for adults. I don't think that's really going to stop anyone in this case from buying whatever game for their kids. I mean, like I said, I've played games like Black Ops 2, and I was clearly under the age of 18 when I played Black Ops 2. I mean, I played Grand Theft Auto 4, and I think like 15 when I played GTA 4. You know, clearly the rating is subjective, and it's based on how the parent views the game. Honestly, at the end of the day, I really just think it's just based down to the parents or guardians on what they want to have their kids playing. But when it comes to adults, honestly, it doesn't really matter. You do you. You play what you want to play. In this case, don't tell other adults what they can and can't play. If they want to enjoy something that's got titty in it, something that's got gratuitous violence, just let them enjoy the game. If you're gonna shit on someone for playing something that you don't like or agree with, just go royally butt fuck yourself, I guess. that's a graphic way of putting it, but no, seriously, if you're gonna tell someone like me who's a grown ass adult, it's like you can't play X game because there's too much titty in it, and you're gonna be labeled as a perv for playing the game. Well, sorry, I'm enjoying the game. What else am I supposed to do? I'm trying something that's different because most of what I usually play is something like shooters, as you see here, or something like Fortnite, which is also a shooter. You know, like I guess Zenless Zone Zero is the thing that well, it's a gotcha that I play. It's not a shooter per se. Well, it's not really a shooter at all, but I guess this kind of leans into the more fan servicey side. Even though I've played things that are way more sexual in nature than something like that. I mean, I've played something like Evenical. For anyone who knows what that is, if you've seen the uh, the Seth video, you definitely know what kind of game Evenical is. It's definitely not a game for anyone under the age of 18. That's for damn sure. But if you're gonna tell somebody what they can and can't play, if you're trying to buy a game for your kids, that as a parent, well, I'm not a parent myself, but if you're a parent, that's up to you to decide what you think is right for them at the end of the day. But if you're an adult, you decide what you want to play, and honestly, you can't let anyone else, tell you what you can and can't play or can and can't enjoy. I just think that I get I really don't know where I'm going with this. This is the thing about the rants. They just go somewhere, and I just kind of build off the rant and see where it goes from that point onward. But I guess I made my point across. I think in our culture, I think we're just going a little. We're going hard on things that we don't have to go hard on, and we're going soft on things that we shouldn't be going too soft on. If we're thinking based on audiences that are going to be playing something or experiencing a game, we got to think like we gotta think more. I guess more holistically. I don't know if that's the right word to use, but we gotta think more whole. We gotta see the big picture and think better, if that makes sense. There's things that like we gotta go harder on, but there's things we can't go too hard on, if that makes sense. The point is that violent games are fun, sexy games are fun. Sometimes they can be good, sometimes they can be shit. Both sides have made good games and both sides have made bad games. At the end of the day, it's really subjective and you just enjoy what you want to enjoy. And if you're buying your game for your kids and or your teens, that's up to you as the parent or guardian to decide what they play. Anyways, everyone, this is coming up to an end. Thank you for watching, and y'all have a fantastic day. Peace.